Recording in progress. Recording stopped.
Good morning, honorable members. I take this opportunity to welcome you to our meeting of the Portfolio Committee on International Relations. We also welcome the staff. That always helps us as the Portfolio Committee to be able to execute our responsibilities accordingly. We are welcoming the department, the leadership of the department, though we have received apologies from the minister and the deputy ministers. We welcome the staff that is coming from the Department of International Relations and Cooperation. We are also welcoming South Africans and other people who have made it their responsibility to follow the proceedings of this committee and other committees of Parliament, using the platforms that have been provided by the Parliament of the Republic of South Africa as a means for them to be part of the democratic processes of Parliament for which they vote for every 5 years. Today, honorable members, we are going to be dealing with 6 items: opening and welcome, apologies, presentation on BRICS, discussion on that matter. Item number 4 will be a discussion of the people-centered oversight approach and the symposia participation tool in oversight. Item 5, it will be closing remarks by the chairperson on the way forward, and then we will have closure. There's a sit-in today at 3 o'clock. I think the meeting is scheduled to proceed until 1 o'clock, as indicated there. It's 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock. Once more, I welcome you, honorable members. Do we have apologies, Lubabalo?
Good morning, Chair and honorable members. We do have apologies, Chair. As you earlier noted, Chair, we have the apology of the minister. He has traveled to Egypt on a working visit. We have another apology from Deputy Minister Moraga. She's in Russia, also on a working visit, and Deputy Minister Potters is on leave. And the DG and other senior executives are in Brazil for the G20 Summit, Chair. For today's presentation, Chair, Mr. Joubert will be leading the delegation and also leading the presentation on BRICS, Chairperson. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Lubabalo. Honorable members, as we meet here today, we have seen elections taking place in some of the countries in SADC. We congratulate the people of Botswana for the manner in which they conducted their elections. According to the reports, the elections in Botswana and all their processes complied fully with their own constitution as a sovereign state. We have seen how the former President Masisi, openly, without wasting any time, acceding to defeat and making sure that a pronouncement is made by himself to welcome the outcome of the elections on behalf of the former ruling party, and ushering in a new dispensation in as far as the political leadership of government in Botswana is concerned. We applaud them. That's very good leadership approach indicated there. We have also seen the elections taking place in Mauritius. The elections in Mauritius also went very well. There are no major issues arising out of Mauritius. We have also seen the former ruling party acceding to defeat and accepting the outcome of the elections. I think also there it augurs very well, not only for the SADC region, but it augurs well for the African continent's consolidation of democratic values and principles. The election in Mozambique have taken place. There are some issues which are matters arising from the elections of Mozambique. We have seen people, other parts of the country not accepting the outcome of the elections. We have seen people protesting. Some people have lost their lives. Business could not proceed as normal. The border gate between South Africa and Mozambique had to be closed temporarily. It has now been open. But there is another threat of those protests commencing from tomorrow as part of the rolling mass action of some sections of society. They're expressing their dissatisfaction and no acceptance of the outcome of the results. We want to commend the South Africa under the leadership of President Ramaphosa for issuing a statement which indicates that South Africa, we applaud the people of Mozambique for the manner in which they went to vote in their big numbers, but also urged all the parties in Mozambique, the people of Mozambique, to work together to resolve their matters, which are matters arising from the elections as part of respecting the sovereignty of Mozambique. We are also assured by President Ramaphosa that discussions are taking place with the other SADC leaders for SADC before the end of November to make sure that there is intervention in the situation in Mozambique. We are encouraged by a communication which was sent out by the chairperson of the security cluster of SADC, President Mnangagwa of Zimbabwe, indicating that there will be a meeting over this coming weekend for the matters and developments in Mozambique to be discussed by SADC so that the situation there can be normalized. As we all know, on the 27th of November 2024, another SADC country, Namibia, will be holding the elections. So far, it seems to be very peaceful. Things seem to be going very well. We will await the results on the 28th, 29th of November and see the outcome. And it's our wish that the people of Namibia will all of them accept the outcome of the results, irrespective of whatever direction that outcome of the results will take. As we sit here, honorable members, the COP29 is sitting, I think, in Azerbaijan. COP29 is about dealing with matters of environmental degradation globally, which is a consequence of industrialization of the North countries now impacting also on the South. We will also know and understand that as part of our South-to-South relations, we have always raised as the South matters of the impact of environmental degradation, which is a consequence of aggressive industrialization, which took place for many centuries in the North. And one of the arguments that South has been raising is the fact that the compensation and the amelioration of the consequences on the people of the South has to be compensated by people of the North and states of the North because it was a man-made consequence. And those discussions are going on. We all know that those discussions are taking place in BRICS, in the South-to-South relations.
Recording in progress.
In the G20, those discussions are taking place, but also in the United Nations ancillary bodies, which are dealing with these matters of the environment. We have also seen the elections in the United States of America, which is the biggest economy in the world, electing President Donald Trump to come in again in the United States of America. We have seen that those developments there have not affected the markets as some analysts had thought that if they go in the manner in which they have gone, they will affect the global economy. So far there's a relative stability as far as those matters are concerned. Of course, the Twitter handle of President Trump is the one that from time to time everybody's following, announcing this, announcing that, on what is going to happen as soon as he is ushered in at the beginning of 2025. One of the interesting things which I think as South Africa we may want to look at is how the And we congratulate Ndate Rasool. Mr. Rasool has now been appointed by President Ramaphosa, as it was announced yesterday by Minister Lamola, that Ndate Rasool is going back to the US as the ambassador there on behalf of our country. I think as a committee, through your chairperson on a regular basis, there's going to be constant interaction with Ndate Rasool in as far as developments in the US are concerned and the posture that we have to take as South Africa from time to time on matters that are taking place in the US and the extent to which those matters may impact on South Africa. Related to that will be the attitude of the new Trump administration in the US in as far as the situation in Palestine is concerned, what's going to be his attitude. We will see that formally when after his inauguration and not necessarily follow the anecdotes that are there in the media. Then we will take it from there because there's a stance by South Africa. In as far as that matter is concerned, the stance is well known. So I will not repeat it here because it has been well canvassed by South Africa, particularly in the case that South Africa has initiated of atrocities that have been perpetrated by apartheid state of Israel on the people of Palestine. The ICJ is dealing with that particular matter. And additional information we all know has been submitted by South Africa to the ICJ to make sure that the Israeli state is taken to task for continuing to maim the people of Palestine. We also hope that President Trump will very soon also say something about the situation in Iran, how in the African continent he thinks his new administration is going to be working with the African continent. We are also looking forward to hear what President Trump is going to say with regard to some of the geopolitical dynamics which are taking place between Russia and Ukraine. In the same breath, honorable members, you will remember the chairperson had indicated to the Portfolio Committee that he's on a mission to meet several ambassadors of various countries who are based here in South Africa. I have spoken personally, not through the secretary. I spoke personally to the ambassador of Ukraine the last 2 days. Our meeting is just about to take place before the end of November. I'm saying this because I had reported that to this committee when I had met also with the ambassador of China. We have received an invite from Russia for us to go and pay a courtesy visit to the new ambassador. As we know that Ambassador Rogachev is no longer an ambassador of Russia based here in South Africa. So we'll continue to monitor these global situations and see how they impact on South Africa and how as South Africa will play a role in making sure that we shape a better world and a better Africa for humanity to thrive. We are now at this stage, honorable members, going to provide an opportunity to the department to make a presentation in as far as this item on BRICS or FOCAC, on BRICS, which was held in Russia, is concerned. I'm mixing them because FOCAC was held 2 days before the BRICS in Russia. And that Clayson Monyela, I don't know. Okay, Lubabalo did say it will not be you who will be presenting, so we are handing over to the department to do the presentation. Sorry, madam, for not mentioning your name. Lubabalo had given me the name, but it just escaped me now. I profusely apologize for. Oh, it is Mr. Joubert. It's not Joubert. I always say to people who have been taught that it's not Joubert, it's Joubert. Mr. Joubert, over to you.
Very good morning to you, Honourable Chair, Maumapelo, and your honourable members of the committee. First of all, again, to apologise on behalf of our principals and our leadership. Also to mention that the BRICS Sherpa is supporting as the G20 Sous Sherpa, supporting our DG as the G20 Sherpa in Brazil. I acknowledge also that the senior managers, the top managers on this platform from DIRCO. And with your permission, Chair, I will then proceed to do the presentation on the outcomes of the 16th BRICS Summit that took place in Kazan, Russia. Thank you.
Proceed, Mr. Joubert. Proceed.
Thank you, Chair. We can go to the next slide, colleagues. As you know by now, the 16th BRICS Summit took place in Kazan, the Russian Federation. Our Honourable President Ramaphosa led the South African delegation, and it was the first time that the BRICS leaders met in an expanded format. As you remember, Chair and Honourable members, in 2023, when we hosted the summit in Johannesburg, we invited several countries to join BRICS as full members. And we then saw that the UAE, Iran, Ethiopia, and Egypt joined BRICS. They accepted those invitations. So this was a historical summit in terms of the significant expansion of BRICS following South Africa joining the BRIC in 2010. So the agenda included global developments, implementation. I'm sorry, I cannot see the entire presentation there. I don't know if there is a possibility. The agenda then included global developments, the implementation of decisions from our Johannesburg 2 summit, the BRICS political and security cooperation issues, as well as BRICS economic and financial cooperation. Can we go to the next one? The summit reaffirmed the commitment are we on the same page? Commitment to sustainable development and the interest of the global south, stressed the role played by BRICS in shaping a fairer multipolar world order, reiterated the urgent need for reform of the global political, financial, economic, and trading systems so that all countries benefit from the system and not an exclusive few. Therefore, it called for the reform of the UN, including its Security Council, and supported a legitimate aspiration that we see from emerging and developing countries, especially from Africa, Asia, Latin America, including BRICS countries, in a reformed United Nations Security Council. It called for international law to be applied consistently. The emphasis was on importance of dialogue and peaceful resolution of disputes, including the war in the Ukraine. It condemned the ongoing aggression in Gaza and Lebanon, commended the African efforts in South Sudan, the Central African Republic, and Mozambique. It expressed concerns at insecurity in the Sahel region, the Democratic Republic of Congo, the Great Lakes region, and in the Horn of Africa, particularly Sudan. The summit also noted the economic potential of the BRICS partnership, called for deeper cooperation in artificial intelligence, climate, and green energy, all those issues that are cross-cutting, welcomed the initiatives to benchmark and monitor BRICS economic and trade data, The summit included reports from the president of the New Development Bank. As you may recall, the president of the New Development Bank of BRICS is the former president of Brazil, Dilma Rousseff, and the chairs of the BRICS Business Council, the BRICS Women's Business Alliance, and the BRICS Interbank Cooperation Mechanism. It commended the New Development Bank on its achievement of its 10 years anniversary and encouraged further membership expansion of the bank. Of course, in terms of the Johannesburg II summit taskings, foreign ministers were tasked to develop the BRICS partner country model, and in this regard, the modalities of a partner country model were approved at the summit. Partner countries will be invited to BRICS partnership sessions at BRICS summits and at foreign ministers of BRICS. They may also be invited on a case-by-case basis and on the basis of full consensus by BRICS countries to other ministerial meetings and the BRICS Parliamentary Forum. The summit approved a shortlist of prospective BRICS partner countries, and the chair will consult with these countries concerned before an announcement is officially made. The Johannesburg II summit also tasked finance ministers and, where applicable, Reserve Bank governors to consider the issue of local currencies, payment platforms, and systems. The finance track is exploring settlements in national currencies between member states using correspondent bank accounts and the development of infrastructure suitable for the settlement of these transactions in national currencies. Finance ministers were tasked to continue and report to next summit on the progress they are making in the use of local currencies. Increasing the use of local currencies will be a priority for Brazil as incoming chair of BRICS in 2025. This Brazil has stated in several fora and events. Then in terms of the summit declaration, the Kazan Declaration, an impressive declaration of 134 paragraphs. It restates support for multilateralism. I mentioned that earlier on. Very important to note that this support confirms the BRICS acknowledgement that there is only one system of international law and multilateral system, and that system needs to be reformed, and the increased participation of women in peace processes should also be focused on. Reflect on BRICS cooperation in areas such as health, environment, trade, global governance reform, agriculture, rural development, energy, including just energy, transition, transport, anti-drugs, quite a wide variety of issues that were dealt with, including disarmament and the peaceful use of outer space. It endorsed the establishment of the BRICS Civil BRICS Council. The summit included an outreach dialogue with invited countries under that theme that you see the honorable members, BRICS and the Global South, jointly building a better world. The agenda included the situation in the Middle East and BRICS cooperation with a Global South. Multipolarity was highlighted as a positive move towards addressing unequal access to the benefits of globalization. Leaders highlighted the importance of regional projects that could unlock economic potential of the Global South, and that included, of course, our own continental free trade area, the North-South Transport Corridor, and the One Belt and Road Initiative. That is very briefly the presentation, colleagues. and we are ready to engage on any matters. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jube, for that presentation. Honorable members, that's the presentation on the BRICS. The opportunities now up to us to engage the presentation. We will take hands.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning, Honorable Douglas.
Hi, good morning. Sorry, I'm struggling with the emoticons thingy. Can I just ask some questions?
Yeah, Hanan, Honorable member.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think for me, the most important thing that I have to really think about is it's a good report, but you know, after our trip to China, I think I have a lot of questions for DIRCO and for the minister on how we really feel about our BRICS partners if we are busy defunding our departments in such an incredible way, in how our embassies and our consul general have their hands tied behind their back. It's really, you know, it's fine to say we went to do this, we went to do that. And, you know, we can speak about things that was raised here, but like if we're defunding our BRICS partnerships, and China is our largest trading partner, if we're defunding our foreign missions to such an extent that our staff live in bad housing, that our staff have to pay for medical care, that our staff have to take money out of their own pockets to fly to trade shows, and there's no money for us to put up pavilions, there's no money for us to go to trade shows in far-flung areas of places like China, never mind Russia, India, and Brazil. So, you know, we're playing games here, Mr. Chair, as far as I'm concerned. We need to start thinking about how, if we are truly going to look at how we participate in these BRICS conferences, and we're going to get the real value out of it, we must look at how we demonopolize the international trade. Right now, our international trade is monopolized by white monopoly capital. It's only the people that still benefit from having stolen our land, from having stolen our minerals, not returned it, and are only using it for their own benefit, and are taking it out of our land in raw mineral form and not beneficiating it here for our own jobs. They're the ones that are getting the benefit from what's happening in China. You know, we go to Shanghai, we went to China, in Beijing, and the fact is simple things like putting a Alipay payment facility within an embassy. A simple thing like that, they could open up opportunities for trade so people can fly next week. Why must people wait for 8 months to be able to get visas to come here? We're losing out on tourism, we're losing out on trade. And that means that black businesses, colored businesses, Khoisan businesses on the ground, Indian businesses, and even white SMMEs, we're missing out on all that business and all that opportunities because this department is being defunded and it's being driven into the ground. And this is, again, another example of how this DA-led ANC coalition is failing our people. So, you know, as far as I'm concerned, sir, we can have nice long talks, but what are we doing to make sure that when we look at the BRICS countries, that we look at our largest trading partner in the world, that's China is our largest trading partner, but who's benefiting from that trade? Is it the local black-owned businesses? No, it's not. It's the old Stellenbosch mafia guys. So I'm very tired of listening to these wonderful things that we talk about here. And I've got a lot of technical questions that I want to ask, like what specific areas of oversight does DIRCO identify as necessary to ensure that BRICS agreements on multilateralism and reforming global governance are upheld? Because we've got all these agreements and none of it is being implemented in the right way. None of the benefit is flowing down or trickling down into the hands of the poorest of the poor. And what's happening is that we're not even doing simple things like making sure that our bilateral with China as a BRICS country is zero rating our products. It's something that we raised right there in China, was raised with us. They said they're willing to do it, we're willing to do it. When is it going to happen? If we zero rate our tariffs, we can bring our SMMEs into the global market. We can work on collaborations between their investment, our investment. There's billions of dollars of funds available in BRICS funds There's funds for agricultural development. There's funds for technical support. There's funds for fourth industrial revolution technology. There's funds for AI development. None of that is reaching the black businesses in this country. So, we can have nice talks about all these presentations. Mere attendance is just a tick box exercise. If we're not taking what we are called here to do and say, as Africans, as South Africans, how are we benefiting our people with this international trade? Billions of dollars happen in trade that doesn't reach black businesses. So, I have a lot of technical questions, but I'm frustrated, sir, when I yell these things and nothing's being done. So I want to leave it there and allow other MPs to participate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Douglas. And I'm happy you brought to our attention that your gadget was giving you a challenge in as far as pressing the button to raise your hand is concerned. So according to my screen here, we are remaining only with 3 hands. And those hands is Honorable Smith, Honorable Kumbacha, and Honorable Muwela. Oh, there is also Honorable Powell. So those will be the last 4 hands, honorable members. Over to you, Honorable Smith.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I think I actually came last. If I remember, it was Honorable Muwelo who was ahead of me. So I'd like to just give the members who put their hands up first a chance. I'll come in as per the order.
Smith, can you make your input?
All right, Chair, I'll proceed. Thank you for the presentation. I firstly just wanted to highlight some of the feedback regarding the Kazan Declaration. I note that there is a commitment to multilateralism, international law, the United Nations Charter, diplomacy, the peaceful resolution of disputes, human rights, global governance reform, and the increased participation of women in peace processes. I think this is a very welcome development, but I think we need a little bit more detail on how exactly this is going to be implemented from within BRICS, given that there are several heads of states, quite frankly, of BRICS member states who are in violation of international law in terms of their actions in their particular regions in the world. So it's very nice for the BRICS Summit to agree to uphold these principles internationally, which sound very good on paper, but how exactly is South Africa ensuring that its own BRICS partners are being held accountable for their actions in terms of international law? I don't think that needs any broader explanation, but that's surely, I think, a pertinent question that I'd like to pose to the department. And then secondly, Chair, I just wanted to just refer to the BRICS member states as well. I know that BRICS has been expanded. We now have, I think it's 4 or 5 additional member states, but I worry about South Africa's role, and certainly India and Brazil's, as democratic societies within BRICS. We seem to be surrounding ourselves in multilateral institutions and on multilateral platforms by countries that are not democracies. And it does worry me to a certain extent, the association that South Africa is going to have on the international stage. We're supposed to be a bastion of democracy. We're supposed to be promoting the values of the South African Constitution, which include freedom, democracy, and human rights, as much has been declared in the Kazan Declaration, in fact. And yet we are still in multilateral organizations with countries which are inflicting human rights upon their own populations. So I would just like some clarity from the department, please, in that regard, as to how we as South Africa are going to still be promoting our own constitution and our own constitutional principles, much of which have already been outlined by the BRICS countries and certainly in the Kazan Declaration, but which we find at direct odds with actions taking place in other countries within the BRICS bloc. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Smith. Honorable Kumbacha.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good morning to yourself and all the honorable members and the department and the platform. No, Chair, mine is very short. The outcomes of the BRICS Summit have been outlined, and I just wanted to check in terms of the department, what are they doing to monitor the implementation then of the outcomes and resolutions of the summit, because I think that's the most important thing, the implementation thereof, because it does impact us on many levels, and it should also yield positive results in terms of other aspects. So what are they doing in terms of monitoring the implementation? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kumbatwa. Honorable Moela.
Thank you, Chair, and greetings to all members of the Portfolio Committee of International Relations and all officials from the International Relations, from DECO, and everyone who's present in the meeting. Let me start by congratulating our African countries which have undergone peaceful elections in Mauritius, in Botswana, and obviously condemn what is happening in our neighboring country, Mozambique, and also looking on the dynamics that are happening in the US with regard to the election of the Donald Trump and many other parts of the world which are undergoing peaceful elections, which shows that indeed we are moving into the right direction in ensuring the peaceful elections which are without any hassle and so forth. So I want to also note the declaration with regard to the BRICS Summit in Kazan, which has made a lot of recommendations which are positive, that will also impact and open most of economic opportunities, most particularly in the region, the projects which will unlock most of the potential economic opportunities. I want to point to say this, it also gives us courage that it will also impact on the BRICS Summit, which is most particularly on the youth sector, because we also want to see the tangible results in terms of how they are touching our vulnerable young people in the BRICS countries, especially in our country, in South Africa. What is the method that is used in order to track the progress that is been there, which we made declarations in most of these particular summits that we are having. So I want to check with regards to the extension to the youth summits or to the youth counterparts, what are the opportunities which will be open that will be tangible, rather than just going into a summit, make declarations, but what is the track system that is being used to show that there is indeed a progress of some sort, like the exchange programs and so forth that are undergoing through all our BRICS countries, which are the chair of. So I want to check as to how is it going to impact the life of young people, most particularly in our country, as and when we welcome the expansion of BRICS, more countries coming in, how impactful it is, what are the tangible results that we can be able to observe, that the DECO can clarify, so that we are able to then also track and see the progress that is happening. So that will be my submission for now, but we are also welcoming the presentation, Chair, and also we are welcoming the declarations which were made in Kazan through the summit, and we are very much happy that it will also impact economically and otherwise. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Moela. Honorable Powell.
Thanks, Chairperson. So I've got quite a lot of input, but I see we're doing well on time. So if you'll please bear with me. So firstly, I just want to say that the 2024 BRICS Summit does indeed mark an important moment for South Africa to recalibrate its role on the international stage. With the group's growing influence, South Africa must use this as an opportunity to prioritize our national interests and ensure that our engagement within BRICS aligns with our constitutional values and our democratic aspirations as a nation. We all know that the agreement that underlies or underpins our government of national unity outlines a foreign policy framework that's based on human rights, constitutionalism, peaceful conflict resolution, and of course, enhanced trade cooperation. These principles are fundamental to our domestic agenda and to our international standing. Recent interactions with nations like Russia and Iran, both associated with gross human rights violations, do indeed raise questions about whether through BRICS, South Africa risks compromising its diplomatic integrity and its moral standing. My party, the party that I represent here, the Democratic Alliance, has been clear that South Africa's foreign policy agenda must prioritize our national interest while seeking to advocate a just, peaceful, and equitable world. This, of course, includes engaging in global governance forums and supporting efforts aligned with the AU's 2063 agenda. It seems, though, that there's growing tension that's emanating out of our political engagements within the BRICS Plus group that we need to bring to bear in terms of realigning South Africa's focus in the context of the new government of national unity, where no single political party has an outright majority to determine South Africa's foreign policy. We know that BRICS does indeed offer a platform for advancing South-to-South cooperation and advocating for global governance reform, which is something that we support. And I think that we must use this as an opportunity to act as a bridge builder between the global North and the global South in terms of our role in championing a more just and equitable international order. Of course, it must be stated that for South Africa, the importance of the European Union and the United States as trade and investment partners can't be overstated. The EU does, in fact, remain South Africa's largest investor, contributing significantly to job creation and economic stability. The EU, in fact, accounts for over 53.7% of all total foreign direct investments into South Africa. And of course, we know that through AGOA, the United States has provided South Africa with preferential market access in areas that support key industries like automotives and agricultural exports. These are, of course, value-added manufactured goods, not mineral resources and derivative extracts that we see our trade with nations like China is predominantly based on. So one of the subjects that we're very interested in is the push for de-dollarization. We know that this effort is primarily led by Russia and China to reduce reliance on the US dollar in international trade. Russia, we know in particular, has been advocating for the creation of a BRICS commodities exchange in order to facilitate trade in non-dollar currencies, which of course is appealing to nations that are seeking to bypass Western sanctions. But we believe that this proposal is fraught with risks and that we as a nation must approach the issue of de-dollarization quite decisively. It's clear that there is division within BRICS itself on the issue, and South Africa must align itself with more cautious voices on the matter, advocating for a balanced approach. At the heart of our foreign policy agenda in the World Chairperson must be our commitment to advancing constitutional democracy, human rights, and justice. The growing influence of countries like Russia and Iran, we believe, presents a challenge to these principles. Of course, Russia's ongoing war in Ukraine and Iran's record of human rights abuses are indeed antithetical to the ideas that our democracy is built upon. And our continued association with nations that flout international law risks undermining our global image as a defender of human rights. So I think in order to navigate this complexity, understanding the importance of South Africa's participation in all sorts of multilateral forums, our recommendations to the department is that South Africa reclaim its role as a bridge builder. We leverage our diplomatic legacy to promote dialogue and consensus building, and we avoid aligning ourselves with anti-Western rhetoric, because while we've got a very meaningful role to play, we should prevent BRICS from being reshaped into an anti-Western alliance, which would harm our economic interests at the domestic level. And as BRICS expands and attempts to reshape the geopolitical landscape, we of course have got a very unique opportunity here in terms of acting as a bridge builder and a leader in regional and global affairs. I would like to then just move on to some concerns I have in regards to, or questions you could say, that are informed by my concerns around Iran's treatment of women with regards to the proposed Women in Peace process and the Kazan Declaration that relates to BRICS affirming its support for international law and human rights. Chairperson, we know that in regards to Iran, the United Nations Human Rights Council renewed the mandate of the Special Rapporteur on Iran. Last year, the Special Rapporteur pointed out that there is a potential possible commission of international crimes, notably the crimes against humanity of murder, imprisonment, enforced disappearances, torture, rape, sexual violence, and persecution in regards to the Iranian regime's response to the Women, Life, Freedom protests. We know that in November last year, in concluding its observations, the UN Human Rights Committee expressed concerns about impunity for the use of lethal force that was used during those protests. We know that attacks on weekly Friday protests all over Iran peaked in October as security forces unlawfully used shotguns against thousands of protesters and worshippers and carried out mass arbitrary arrests. The authorities in Iran continue to ban independent political parties, civil society organizations, and trade unions, and subject workers and labor rights activists to reprisals for holding peaceful gatherings. Authorities in Iran routinely subject detainees to enforced disappearance, detention, and these facilities in which these protesters are held are controlled by the Ministry of Intelligence and the Revolutionary Guards and various bodies of Iranian police. Torture, ill treatment, systemic beatings, floggings, electric shocks, mock executions, denial of food and water, prolonged solitary confinement. We also know that state television airs torture-tainted confessions, and this can all be corroborated by looking at some of the reports coming out of the United Nations and Amnesty International. We know that the authorities in Iran also censor the media. They've jammed satellite television channels, and they continue to block and filter mobile applications and social media. We also know that there are allegations that Iran continues to provide drones and other military equipment to Russia, which are then used to target and destroy civilian infrastructure in Ukraine, and that transferred technology and manufacturing expertise to Russia continues in order to assist Russia in manufacturing drones that are used in their illegal occupation of a sovereign state. Now, again, this goes back to the Kazan Declaration relating to support for BRICS' support for international law and human rights. We also know that Russia is engaged in an illegal war of occupation of a sovereign state, and that, of course, the justification used for this being NATO expansionism does not hold water, because, of course, NATO expansionism only poses a threat to nations that are, in fact, intent on stealing land that does not belong to them. So it's in the context of our association with these regimes that I ask a number of questions in terms of how South Africa can leverage its position within BRICS to bring about a more just, peaceful, and equitable world order that is founded on our constitutional values such as freedom and democracy. We, of course, also know the hand of Russia in destabilizing many parts of North Africa and the Sahel. So I'd like to move to some of my questions, Chairperson. Does South Africa intend on using its membership within BRICS to advance democratic ideals and reaffirm and uphold international law? And if so, what is South Africa going to do to agitate for the more equal treatment of women in Iran and towards Russia withdrawing its troops from the sovereign state of Ukraine? Then I'd like to also know which countries have been asked to be BRICS partners, because we talk about the continued expansion of BRICS. So has there been any agreement in terms of understanding which countries have been asked to be BRICS partners and how they have responded? Then on the issue of creating independent international financial institutions, what is South Africa's formal position on the issue of de-dollarization? I'd also like to understand whether or not the department has any information as to why Saudi Arabia never took up its membership. I'd like to ask, when we speak about increased security cooperation, what does this mean in practice? What discussions have been had in regards to increased security cooperation? Would this relate to potentially statements that we've made condemning Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine? Does it mean that we are opposed to other members of BRICS assisting Russia in their continued aggression when we talk about security cooperation and upholding international law? Can we please have some feedback in terms of the specifics? Further, do we know if IBSA is going to be holding a summit at any point in the future? And I'd like to also understand from the department how they view some of the statements that have come out in the dialogue surrounding BRICS, this anti-Western rhetoric. Is the intention of South Africa from within BRICS to advance South Africa's domestic economic trade interests? Or is it, do we as a nation align ourselves with the anti-Western rhetoric? How do we see South Africa's position within BRICS? Are we a member of many multilateral bodies and this is but one? Or do we see this as the predominant vehicle through which South Africa will realign its foreign policy agenda and domestic interests? And if so, what would the potential implications for that alignment be on the continued foreign direct investment and economic cooperations that we have with nations that fall outside of the BRICS plus grouping? Those are my questions for now. I may have some follow-ups. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Powell. Honorable Mutwedi.
Ke a leboga modulasetulo madume go botlhe ba ba mo kopanong ya gompieno. Chair, before one or two questions that I will make, there are 3 or 4 issues that I think one should really speak about, Chair. In the House yesterday, I did speak of our commitment as an organization, the EFF, that we do support the current foreign policy position of the Republic of South Africa. And we must not be opportunistic as if this position was only taken yesterday or was taken last month or was taken after the recent national and provincial elections. I don't think it's fair, because this is a position that the country took a long time ago. Whether we are in an era of GNU or this and that remains the country's foreign position that we ought to respect and support as members of parliament and as members of the Republic of South Africa. Now, another thing, Chair, is that it's I'm quite worried. Not worried per se, because we live in a constitutional democratic state. we have a freedom of expression and freedom of choice. Now, the situation in Russia, we view it differently. Those that some would say it's Russia's, that has invaded Ukraine, this and this and that. Some would be in support of Ukraine. Where I am sitting as an organization, we are fully in support of Russia defending its independence, because this expansion of NATO in Ukraine puts Russia's at risk. So we will fully be behind what is happening, especially Russia defending itself there. Now, when the US continuously pump resources to Ukraine, because this is a UN-sponsored war that Ukraine must fight. Now, people don't see anything wrong with that, but they want to see anything wrong when Russia is assisted by its own friends. And we are very disappointed that as South Africa, we chose to be on the fence. But we will respect the decision that is taken, because this is taken by the leadership at that time on what will the posture of South Africa be in this Russia-Ukraine war. We would have liked South Africa to be on the side of Russia and supporting Russia. If South Africa had to support Russia with ammunition to defend itself, let it be. That's the position that we would have actually liked. But because we are not in government, because these positions were taken a long time ago, we'll respect whatever positions that are the chair. Now, the other thing, Chair, is that BRICS is a very important platform that we must never, take it for granted. It's a very, very important platform. The ever-changing political landscape, Chair, recently Donald Trump was elected as the president, and his posture on South Africa, we've also seen how the state president of South Africa said Donald Trump must keep his America whilst we keep our South Africa. So clearly, South Africa must be in the lookout for any trading partners in the future, because the possibility is that whether we talk about the AGOA or any other, we had a citrus that the Minister of Trade and Industry, they went there to beg the US, to accept the citrus export to the country, which we just don't know what is. So anything can happen. So South Africa must be on the lookout for any trading partner in the future, whether it's going to move along the lines of the de-dollarization or what. That's if it's a trading partner, it's a trading partner. And if we're not accepted within the dollar trading space, why should we beg to remain within that dollar trading space, Chair? And I think maybe we need to caution the department to say, I don't think we're doing enough to look into the intra-Africa trade, because there can be a lot of trade within the African continent. I remember 3-4 months ago in the Portfolio Committee, I raised an issue of agricultural exports to African countries, about 23% of our year. So I think we need to really look into how do we continuously create other markets. China is looking for South African beef. We were there in China, Chair. We've not been able to take South African beef to China. So those are the markets that we should, because the current arrangement of current beef and the beef master, they are supplying their Western partners there. But if the West doesn't want us, Chair, what is it that we're going to do? In conclusion, Chair, I fully agree with what Honorable Douglas has said. I think he went at length in terms of challenges that we are confronted with, and I fully agree with him. But I want to check the department that this summit, how do we ensure that when resolutions are taken at the level of a summit, how do we ensure that we fuse in the transformation targets within those agreements that are there? I'm saying this because when we went to China, Chair, there was a concern that a number of South African companies that would go to China would be white-owned companies. And there's a company that Mr. Douglas referred to that was established by the DA in the Western Cape as one of the biggest trading in that space of China. So how do we ensure that we fuse in transformation targets to ensure that our Black people, because you as the embassy will be saying we're promoting trade and investment, but that trade and investment is occupied by white companies. How do we ensure that targets relating to the transformation are fused into those agreements? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Honorable Montoya. Honorable Shamim, I'm very sorry. I didn't see your message that you sent to me at the beginning of the discussions that you are struggling with your gadget. And if you are connected now, you can speak. And I apologize. I didn't look at my phone, my sister.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. No need for an apology. Assalamu alaikum and good day to all. Firstly, I want to thank the department for the presentation. But I have some concerns. I have not heard everything that many of the members has said, especially with regard to Honorable Pau. I, however, did note she made mention of Al Jamaa. I would like to have, some information or a copy of this meeting so that I can actually listen to what was said earlier. However, what we have found on paper and in reality differs from every single portfolio that is within Parliament. When you do oversight, you see things that is not represented on the paper and you see major concerns. We are encouraged and excited about BRICS and the vision, mission, and aim of BRICS. And as Al Jamaa, we welcome it. It's evident that for our success of BRICS, that this portfolio is going to have to play a major oversight role. Indeed, I agree with Honorable Douglas that we cannot afford to be cutting budget on a matter that is so crucial because it's going to ultimately, God willing, benefit the people of South Africa. We have witnessed in China that there are many concerns that needs to be addressed at our missions. This raises further concerns. What is the issues in our other BRICS countries where South Africa has embassies and missions and trade? Yes, China is one of our biggest entities that we are trading with. But South Africa has the opportunity to trade with many other countries as well as to increase trade. And we also have the opportunity to shut the door to trade with countries who are complicit and part of a genocide that's currently being committed, not just in Palestine, but we do witness genocides happening in Kashmir, in Congo, in many other areas. Now, very importantly, Honorable Chair and members, how are we to navigate our differences surrounding matters related to conflicts? Because those differences are not just amongst parties, one or two parties in the GNU. It also flows over into opposition parties. And this is key to major aspects happening in our world, whether it's Russia, Ukraine, Palestine, Congo, Sudan, and I can go on and on and on. Honorable Paul, there was a reference made to Al Jamaa. Just double check on what you'd said on the video, but I don't know why it just actually popped up. However, we all know that it's no secret that the DA has alternate views in many aspects. So, for example, many of us support Russia. They support Ukraine. We support Palestine. They've been very evident on their support to the unlawful occupiers of Palestine. We support China. They pro-Taiwan. They pro-America. We are cautious of America, and the list goes on. South Africa needs to be cautious on who they align with. And we need to look at the benefit to South Africa and the protection of our people. The dollar has monopolized the world for the generations. And to be honest, we welcome the end of the monopoly played by the dollar. And therefore, we welcome BRICS. To be honest, from what we have seen just from a country like China, is how much BRICS and the New Development Bank has assisted the people of South Africa in a very short time in comparison to other entities. So there is a lot of work to be done. BRICS is still very new, but it is going places. But we're going to have to play our oversight roles. Thank you, Honourable Chair. Thank you, members. And thank you to the staff.
Thank you, Honourable Advocate Shamima. Maybe just before we give to the department, I may have not paid close attention to what Honourable Powell said. I don't know, Honourable Powell, I don't remember you saying anything about Al-Jama. Do you want to just clarify that part quickly?
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. I did write in the chat group because I don't want to distract. I don't want to get into an argument. I'm 100% of what I sure of what I said, and I didn't mention Al-Jama.
Sorry.
Okay, I didn't reference Al-Jama. It could just be if there's a transcript writing AI technology, it could have been that I referenced something else and it came up as Al-Jama, but I have no specific references to Al-Jama nor any specific concerns with their views. Thank you, Chairperson.
Okay. No, that settles the matter. Thank you very much, Advocate and Honourable Powell. My side, the department is just a few issues which are suggestions. I want to suggest that if you can, just before the end of the year, provide us with some simple templates that says, based on the resolutions taken by BRICS, they will be categorized as follows: immediate, short-term, medium, long-term, and indicate to the committee who is responsible for what. That will help us to strengthen our oversight on the department and in as far as the execution of the resolutions taken by BRICS are concerned, so that we are not all over. Then next year, after the State of the Nation address, it will be 8 months towards the next BRICS, which will be in Brazil. We can then, based on that template, have at least 2 to 3 discussions between ourselves and the department based on the template. I will also suggest that that template must be shared with other members of BRICS. It will be up to them to decide whether they are using the template or they will not use the template. But at least they must be aware that in South Africa, this is a tool of monitoring the implementation of the BRICS resolutions as demanded by Parliament, so that they don't become surprised when, during the discussions elsewhere, you approach matters in a manner in which you may be approaching them. They must understand that it's a mandate and accountability tool that has been developed and agreed to between you as the executive and ourselves as the committee extending Parliament over the executive. That's my first proposal. The second proposal is, and maybe it's linked to the first one. I want to suggest you might have to work with DTIC. I know that there are problems of pigeonholism in government, where departments work as pigeonholes and compartments. But I think it's very, very important. There's a committee established or some kind of a forum which promotes coordination between DERCO, DTIC, and other relevant departments. I want to suggest, DERCO, that one of the immediate things we should consider doing is to say, let's establish a process of just focusing on SMME to SMME investment relation. So if you take China, for instance, all SMMEs in South Africa get to know, particularly those who suffered injustices of the past, as the preamble of the Constitution say, that you can have direct SMME to SMME commercial relationship. And then you can have an individual entrepreneur to individual entrepreneur relationship. That is quicker and that is easier for people who have suffered the injustices of the past, other than those who benefited from what they imposed on us as colonialism and apartheid, because they are big, they've got access to capital, they established these financial institutions themselves, they've got all the support, they've got big insurances supporting them and so on. So for me, if we are going to hope that just saying there is trade between us and, for instance, China as a member of BRICS, and we don't say to our people, if you are in Kaelicha, and this is a small thing that you are doing, this is how we can link you up with another person in China who are in need of what you are doing. And then you can expand and expand and expand. We help you to supply so that you meet the demand that is coming from China, as an example. But generally, that should apply to all the BRICS members. That's my second proposal. The third proposal, I think it will be very good if, within the context of BRICS, we can see university to university and generally institutions of higher learning and skills development agreements being entered into and being popularized amongst the people, so that people can begin to know that these universities and other institutions of learning are working together within the BRICS. And we must then, from a communications point of view, make sure that that is intensified at a global level for people to see the results of universities and colleges working together, that are platforms of skills development within the BRICS nations. Because we should be able to say, before we talk about the entire world, what are the skills that the economies within BRICS require? And do we have such skills within the BRICS nations? How do we grow the skills that are needed within the BRICS nations to grow their economies? Then we are able to say there must be some kind of a broad BRICS curricula which focuses on the immediate critical skills that we require as BRICS. I mean, they are there. It will be ICT and all those other things that has been agreed to. The other point is on the AU. I don't know, I might be wrong, but I know the AU gets to be invited to BRICS, but I don't remember AU as a body discussing a phenomenon of BRICS and adopting a resolution. I'm speaking under correction, adopting a resolution to then embrace BRICS and ensure that the resolutions of BRICS are adopted formally by the African Union. So they domesticate the BRICS resolutions in the African Union, so that the entire Africa can then ensure that we domesticate those resolutions from BRICS. Linked to that, it will be necessary for us to get an indication that the BRICS executive arms of the state, the cabinets, have formally adopted the BRICS notion, its resolutions, and that the parliaments also, this one you may not have to answer, I'll talk to the speaker about it, and that the parliaments also adopt the BRICS. For instance, it's not only International Relations Portfolio Committee that must deal with BRICS. Within BRICS, there's education, there's economy, there's defense, there's police, and so on. And I know that as Parliament, we have not yet sat down and say, based on the emergence of BRICS and agreements reached there, in our rules of Parliament, what are the other things which may be new that we may have to insert to make sure that we cater for this BRICS phenomenon, which is very important for our way forward. So that is not treated casually through discussions, but it's institutionalized. So we will try and do that. The department will respond to this matter of the dollar, but I've been trying for a few months now to find a resolution taken by BRICS to be unambiguous that there's going to be de-dollarization. I think de-dollarization is a terminology which was introduced by some of the politicians individually and some of the analysts in the media. What I know to be the BRICS posture is that the BRICS nations must use their own local, domestic currencies to trade among themselves. So that when they trade among themselves, they don't use the dollar. They use currencies of the BRICS nations. And I know that when South Africa was the chair, and now Russia is the chair, that matter of using nation states currencies within BRICS to trade among themselves is a matter that is being discussed. I think there was a quantitative, qualitative agreement now in Kazakh, specifically on how it's going to be executed. Whether in the medium to long term, it will result in de-dollarization, I don't know. But in economic terms, it's not possible to achieve that objective. You can't phase out from the earth a currency of another country. Because de-dollarization means that there will be no dollar sometimes in the future, when actually we should be saying there will be other currencies that are introduced which may compete with the dollar. For me, that will constitute fair trade, that will constitute competition, people who believe in free markets, that will constitute free marketism in as far as economic dynamics are concerned. If BRICS has taken a decision that says no more dollar at all and so on, it will be an unfortunate decision that will have been taken, because economics doesn't work like that. I mean, there are things which America, whether it likes it or not, powerful as they may be, they will not have. They are not going to have them. For instance, more than 40% of the minerals you need to transit to clean energy revolution global, those minerals are in Africa. They're in Africa, and they can't change that reality. And you cannot transit into those new technologies if you don't use those minerals. You can't. You can do whatever you want. You can be how powerful. So when it comes to trade through those currencies, it's impossible to say completely you'll reach a stage where when we, as Africa, for instance, trade with the US, there will not be usage of the dollar because it is their own currency. When we buy in return from them also, it means we will also use our currencies. I don't remember BRICS saying they are anti-West. But I remember BRICS saying that BRICS is there to also ensure that there is peace and harmony all over the world, and that they build relations and first among themselves. Secondly, in the South to South relations, the fact that some of the statistics that are presented in relation to the qualitative strength of the BRICS nation, for instance, population statistics and the economies in terms of GDP in comparison to the G7 and so on. So those are things for political engagements. It doesn't mean that BRICS has stipulated in its documents that it's going to attack the West and it's going to be against the West. What BRICS said is that they will respond to any other matter that seeks to undermine sovereignties of BRICS nations, wherever it comes from, including the West. And I'm sure the West will say the same, that their sovereignties must not be undermined by anybody. What I see myself where I'm sitting in future, because of the strength of the growth of the BRICS, will be a very good cooperation among these powerful bodies. So you are going to have a very, very strong, powerful BRICS, which can then ameliorate the matters of relations at economic, military, and political level amongst themselves as the BRICS nations and the West. Not that they will be fighting the West. So when they sit down with the West, they will know that they are not meeting some weak partners who don't understand where they are coming, where they are going. So that bargaining tool is necessary going forward in the future for the poor of the world, because the West doesn't pursue the agenda of the poor in the world. They do it for PR. The South is the one that pursues the agenda of the poor in the world. That's why BRICS nations talk about the South to South relations, where the poor in the world, the majority, are embedded within the South. And history tells us that it was man-made. It was as a consequence of the actions of the West. Colonialism didn't just fall from the sky and so on. People sat there in Britain and decided to divide our continent into smaller little countries, and today we are struggling to unite among ourselves because people sat in Germany, in Berlin, and decided to take a pencil and divide our country. And we are told today we must forget that thing and just move forward. You know, there must be democracy, good relations among ourselves. We must forget that people were killed, people were maimed. Those things must be forgotten. Hey, let's move forward and forget all those things. This preamble of the Constitution, which says injustice of the past, actually, we may have to, as this committee at some point, maybe next year, say that we must, as Parliament, we will have to table this injustice of the past and the role played by certain nation states in the world, and what is the posture of those nation states in the world to help us overcome what is in the preamble of the Constitution, which is imposed injustices of the past on Black people in South Africa, so that we comply with our own Constitution. We will see what happens in the US, and the world will not come to an end. It will continue. We hope that the US will not be extreme in as far as matters of AGOA and other issues are concerned. If they become extreme, other nation states will not be extinct. They will still be there, and life will go on. I will now give over to the department to respond. Over to you, Ndate Jube, and your team.
Chair, thank you very much for the extensive engagement on this issue. I'm going to try my best to address some of these issues and state from the beginning that if any of the matters I'm not addressing successfully or in enough detail, of course, there can be a continuous engagement bilaterally or offline. So let me start. I try to make notes as far as possible, but the honourable members will remind me if they could remind me if I am skipping anything. In terms of the first intervention by Honourable Douglas. To Honourable Douglas, perhaps just to say that the issues that are driving us in BRICS, South Africa in BRICS, are those issues that relate to scale of economy, scale of trade, scale of investment. So we find the BRICS members in the top in terms of investment in South Africa and also in terms of our trade, not only the total bilateral trade portfolio, but definitely also our exports to those countries. I am cognizant of the concerns that Honourable Douglas expressed in terms of the benefits of those trade and investment flows. If you allow me, Chair, I'm not going to go into that. What I would like to say is that we can have a very, very long and very detailed discussion on the matters of benefits of BRICS. It is a multi-dimensional discussion. First of all, for us as South Africa to engage BRICS countries in a trade agreement, as you can imagine, is a significantly complicated task. South Africa is in the oldest customs union in the world, and that makes it for us, whether it's with BRICS partners, IPSA partners, many other partners in the world, in the blocks, very difficult to, or very complex, let me say not difficult, but complex and a huge challenge to negotiate any preferential or free trade agreement with other countries. So even though we might have that intention to benefit our products in terms of what Honourable Douglas called zero tariffs, it is a very, very challenging task that our DTIC colleagues could perhaps explain better than I can. We saw that the preferential trade agreement we negotiated with Mercosur, another bloc in the Global South, took us 10 years to get to about 100 products on each side. So that is significant challenge. Just in terms of benefits for us in South Africa, the South Africa benefits from about $6 billion of the New Development Bank projects in South Africa. So those projects are benefiting, as you know, that is government projects, benefiting our constituencies in an array of projects that speak to our domestic priorities. For example, the post-COVID recovery program of South Africa, or the actions South Africa took in the line of the COVID pandemic. $1 billion came from the BRICS New Development Bank to support our COVID, what is it called? The response, but that specific benefit that we gave to our people in terms of, I think it was a 350 Rand per month support. Then also, and I will speak to this later on, Honourable Chair, is all those other matters that impact on our relationship with BRICS as far as the private sector is concerned. But I want to speak to that when we get to the issues that you mentioned in your closing remarks that speak to SMMEs and so forth. In terms of Honourable Smith's comments and issues, our posture in international law, human rights, democracy, rights of women, and all those matters are very clear. We project that in the relevant multilateral institutions. So what is happening in BRICS is, and maybe underlying in all my answers would be the fact that BRICS is an informal formation. It is a formation where each of the 9 member states have equal veto, if I can call it that, or we can call it absolute consensus. So what we're trying to achieve in BRICS is not always 100% aligned to what we see our national position would be. We would always aim to get as close as possible to that position. But it is absolutely, I agree with this audience, with the collective of your honourable members in this committee. It is not always optimal in terms of what we want to achieve in BRICS when it comes to these matters. And because it is an informal formation, it is also difficult to project or to keep the BRICS formation or what we say here in other truly multilateral institutions. So what is happening in BRICS, we will take that language to our positions in multilateral fora, and as far as possible try to keep those BRICS members close to that. But as you can imagine, for example, in climate change, not all the members of BRICS are in one formation or one block within climate change. For example, South Africa is part of the basic block in climate change, and that block is not representative of all BRICS members. So this issue is one that is difficult to manage. But I want to say that South Africa's domestic priorities are, of course, influencing how we act in these global South institutions. So that brings me to the issues mentioned by Honourable Kumbacha or Kumbata, which is the monitoring issues and the issues of the outcomes of summit. I know that Chair has suggested that this matter be taken forward. We have duly noted that, again, keeping in mind that BRICS is an informal formation of the Global South, and that the BRICS Summit decisions are driven by our leaders. And that is why I reported in detail about Summit 2023 outcomes, like the issues related to partner countries and to the issue of payment platforms for local currencies. Honourable Muela, thank you for the issues you mentioned and your sentiments towards the Kazan Declaration and BRICS in general. When I'm picking up on your matter related to youth and young people. Of course, South Africa realized the importance of this matter, not only in terms of the global BRICS demographics, but also in terms of the realities in South Africa. And that is why one of the significant institutional achievements of last year's summit that we hosted is the establishment of the BRICS Youth Council. But apart from, so the Youth Council is coming into operation, and the Youth Council is, of course, where we will see these dynamics playing out in terms of South Africa's importance that we attach to youth in our country. But I want to say that BRICS already has several other formations and institutions in place. There is a BRICS Summer School. In South Africa, we have a very, very active South African BRICS Youth Council, BRICS Youth Council, and we are, I can share with you the calendar of significant events that have taken place in 2023 and 2024, bringing BRICS youth together in the third pillar of BRICS cooperation, that is people-to-people cooperation. Honourable Powell, in terms of the statement you have delivered, I made some notes on it. I'm sure I have not captured everything, but perhaps I can try to go through your questions, and which might not be inclusive of everything you have asked, but I will try my best. You asked about the BRICS countries as partners. Summit has pronounced on it, and Summit has also decided that the matter of the BRICS partners countries will be consulted with those countries that have been identified. The countries identified are those that you might have seen in social media, but I would like to confirm the countries that have been identified. The chair has indicated that in terms of the way forward, Summit has not pronounced on those countries because the partner countries will be consulted, and then the chair will come back to foreign ministers, to the Sherpas and to foreign ministers to indicate how those invited countries have responded to the invitation to become BRICS partner countries. And of course, that process is happening because even though Summit has, in 2023, tasked foreign ministers to work on the partner country model, the countries that are on the shortlist have actually applied for full membership of BRICS. And in Russia's chairship in 2025, the model that is discussed in terms of BRICS expansion only deals with partner countries. So those countries are that have been identified to be invited are Bolivia, Cuba, Indonesia, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, Nigeria, Thailand, Turkey, Uganda, Uzbekistan, Vietnam, Algeria, Belarus. So those are the countries that will be approached by the chair to become partner countries. And of course, in terms of the path, this could create a pathway forward to become a full member of BRICS once they are partner countries. In terms of financial institutions and your view on de-dollarization, if you allow me, I will touch on this issue when I get to the issues that were raised by the chair to speak to this matter of de-dollarization. It is very difficult to pronounce on the posture of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in terms of their hesitance to join BRICS, even though they were invited as a full member. I can only, in terms of a very simplistic scenario or analysis, think that Saudi Arabia is also influenced by domestic and regional issues, and of course global geopolitical issues such as the developments of the elections in the USA. So I don't want to second guess in detail the actual posture or position of Saudi Arabia, just to say that they have been quite active in participating as a special invited country in some of the BRICS meetings, both in terms of the Sherpa track and then also their foreign minister participation in summit. The IPSA summit, you asked about that. On the agenda of the G20 meetings, or the agenda of side meetings in the G20 in Rio that is taking place at the moment, the G20 summit, there is a proposal and a definite plan to have an informal meeting of the IPSA leaders, which will involve, of course, President Lula da Silva, our own Honorable President Ramaphosa, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi from India. That is the definite plan. I can also confirm that Brazil, as the chair of IPSA, is planning to host a summit in 2025. That was your question about IPSA summit. You mentioned anti-Western rhetoric. What does South Africa do in BRICS? Is BRICS a vehicle for our foreign policy? What I want to say about anti-Western rhetoric in BRICS is it's evident from the summit declarations that there is definitely, and this is a view from South Africa's, from our foreign policy side, or what you hear in this conversation is, of course, a South African view on things. We are not in BRICS to promote an anti-Western rhetoric. Some of our principles have stated in statements and in media events that South Africa can hardly, or that the world can hardly afford another conflict. So the idea of anti-Western or even anti-UN rhetoric is not the case. That is not what South Africa is promoting. As you can see from the summit declarations, we do believe that our policy in the world, when it comes to conflicts, for example, is informed by a diplomatic solution to that, both parties in the conflict finding their own diplomatic solution, a regional approach to that, and of course the role of the UN, and specifically the UN Security Council and the UN Secretary General. So we are not promoting that in the world or in BRICS. What we are promoting is definitely a reform and a strengthening of the world's multilateral system. And for us, there is only one system, and that is the UN and all its bodies, including the UN Security Council. And that is why the reform of those institutions and of the UN in BRICS is becoming such an important issue. It's overdue. The system is broken, and those are not the words of South Africa or my own words. Those are the words of the UN Secretary General. So we believe that BRICS can contribute to that reform, that strengthening of the world's multilateral system, and in that process ensure that we carry the voice of the global south, so that whatever comes out of a reform and a strengthened system is one that is truly inclusive of the world's, everyone in the world, especially the emerging and developing global south. Honorable Montwedi, you referred to the support to Russia. You've referred to BRICS as an important platform. market access that we need to capitalize on, and the balance between AGOA, for example, and other opportunities in the global south. Again, my appreciation for your sentiments. Of course, I am not going to say who we should support or not in conflict. In my previous words to Honourable Powell, I mentioned the fact that South Africa approaches a diplomatic solution, one that is inclusive of all the parties in the conflict, and one that is also driven by a regional approach to those matters. In terms of the balance that you mentioned, I do believe that balance is an element that we find playing out in our foreign policy very often. So we would like to support sentiments that relate to balance, not only in terms of foreign policy, but also in terms of economic opportunities. And that is one of the reasons why we are in BRICS, is to explore and find ways to capitalize on all those opportunities that our BRICS partners give to us. I will come back to this matter when I speak to the issues that Chair has also mentioned related to this. Advocate Sali, I appreciate your comments. Again, this is about balance in our foreign policy. So again, in the conflict that we see in the Middle East, we do believe that the parties must find a solution. There are, of course, very clear guidance in terms of the world's courts on this issue, the world's legal system on this issue, and UN resolutions that date back several decades on the matter of the conflict in the Middle East and the genocide that is taking place in Gaza. Chair, with your permission, I would like to briefly reflect on the matters that you raise. We take due cognizance of your proposal that would lead to a process of monitoring what is happening in BRICS in terms of the summit resolutions, the summit declarations, and specific issues that were tasked to foreign ministers, to trade ministers, to finance ministers, to reserve bank governors, and all the institutions and policy levels that are at stake in the BRICS family and in these summit declarations. We will do that in coordination with our major departmental partners, DTIC, National Treasury, and all the other departments that are coming into play when we deal with BRICS matters. You mentioned the process of SMMEs. I would like to refer you perhaps in this instance to a significant amount of work that is taking place in this area. Perhaps the most important ones are the SA chapter of the BRICS Business Council, participating in the BRICS Business Forum every year. Our BRICS Business Council is very, very active when it comes to private sector cooperation. So, the BRICS Business Council is, of course, anchored by the DTIC as the department taking care of the work that is done in the BRICS Business Council. Also, I want to refer you to a significant amount of work that is done by the South African chapter of the BRICS Women's Business Alliance The Women's Business Alliance of South Africa is anchored by the Department of Small Business Development, and we can share annual reports to show you the amount of work that is done by the Women's Business Alliance, bringing BRICS small and medium and micro enterprises together and bringing empowering women in this field, with the close support and collaboration of our Department of the Women, Youth and People with Disabilities, DWIPD. So there is, on this level, a significant amount of work being done to promote and capitalize on the opportunities that not only big business in BRICS bring to our constituencies, but also smaller, medium and micro enterprises. In terms of your comments regarding tertiary agreements and tertiary level of cooperation, I want to mention that in this field also there is quite an amount of work being done by the BRICS Network University, the BRICS. There's also a BRICS Plus Universities Association, and I can mention that Russia hosted the BRICS Network University annual conference in October of this year in Moscow. That said, also there is in the third pillar, of course, the South African chapter of the BRICS think tanks. So this is also where a significant amount of work takes place and where there is cooperation between think tanks and the BRICS family to support policy synergies and to support from the academia the work we do on government level when it comes to cooperation in the field of universities. The BRICS Think Tank Council held their annual meeting in Moscow in September, if I remember correctly, this year. And that is also another annual report that we could share with the Honourable Committee if so required. AU and BRICS, this is something that we can unpack. Again, to mention that BRICS resolutions come from a summit that is a rather informal association, BRICS, but we can see to what extent we can take that into the African Union, Honourable Chair. As you know, we are now not alone as Africans in BRICS. We are joined by Egypt and Ethiopia, and certainly this proposal will receive further attention together with. We can drive that, but we will take this up with our fellow African members in the BRICS family. Just briefly then, in conclusion, to reflect on the issue of de-dollarization and trade in our own currencies. I would like to associate myself, or definitely Dirko would associate ourselves with your comments here, Chair, Honourable Chair. The issues I want to mention here is that BRICS is not about de-dollarization. The narrative here is, if there's one out about BRICS and de-dollarization, it is a narrative that does not come from within BRICS. It is a narrative that comes from outside of BRICS. The idea of de-dollarization is not what BRICS is doing. You referred to this issue, and it is a tasking that came from our summit. It is about trading in our own currencies in BRICS using our own local currencies, which are floatable and traded on the world systems perfectly on the financial markets. Our currencies are traded there, so we would like to use our own currencies when we trade between us. It is for us not making sense to be trading with India in US dollars when there's a perfectly floatable rupee and a South African rand to engage in that bilateral trade. So the systems and the platforms that our finance ministers are working on is a one that could save us significant resources in terms of a foreign currency. The African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat did a study on the idea of trading in local currencies, and for those of us who can recall, that study revealed that if the African continent can manage to trade more in its own currencies on the continent, we would be saving $5 billion per annum that we can then spend or invest in our own very, very valuable social programs and programs addressing our challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. The idea of a BRICS currency is also a very, very long-term project. It is not something that we are easily contemplating at this moment. To have your own currency, as the EU has showed us, is a very, very long-term project, and it comes with a significant sacrifice of your sovereign monetary policy authority. So I don't think BRICS is at that level, and I am sure no BRICS country is ready to sacrifice that amount of monetary policy autonomy. Again, when the EU started that process of developing the euro as a currency, nobody said to them, look, these guys are creating an environment of supporting themselves and de-dollarizing. So de-dollarizing in this context is not at stake. Perhaps let me conclude there, but also to mention that the issue of trading in our own currencies when we discuss, when we deal with minerals or critical minerals, I am of the view, BRICS, in BRICS, the discussion is that this is not a bad idea, because BRICS as a collective has a significant portion, 72% of rare earths and more than half of the critical minerals that is needed in just energy. So I do know, I can understand that this must be worrisome to those countries that feel that there must be a monopoly and that certain production processes or certain countries in the West must control these resources, and therefore their own currencies are important in this process. But I do believe that it could be a healthy discussion in terms of rebalancing the centers and contributing to the multipolarity of the world. So perhaps let me conclude there, Chair, and with a sincere apology if I have missed some of the issues that the honourable members have mentioned in this in my response. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Joubert. Honourable Douglas, any follow-up?
Mr. Chair? Can you hear me, Mr. Chair? No, I just want to thank the presenter for the feedback. And I think for us, the global issues that are raised by the treaty is very important for us in the BRICS environment to make sure that we are opening the doors for all our people, not just a certain portion of the people. But I respect what the presenter said, and I thank him for his answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Douglas. Honorable Kumbacha. Honorable Kumbacha, any follow-up? Honorable Smith. Any follow-up, Honorable Smith?
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Muela.
Yeah, Chair, I think I'm covered by the response, and we're looking forward to seeing more initiatives which are directed directly on young people so that we alleviate the stage of unemployment amongst young people in the country, and most particularly in the BRICS. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Muela. Honorable Powell.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks to Mr. Jabir for his responses. I understand that it's not practically possible to give the level of clarity that's required in response to our questions because of the very narrative nature of many of the discussions that happen within BRICS, and this sort of slow progress of actually implementing any of the sort of narrative resolutions. I also understand that in the context of the Government of National Unity, DIRCO has got to reinform its position in line with, of course, the new government's approach to foreign policy. And that does require a level of flexibility. And so I appreciate that we were not able to get pointed or direct responses to all of our questions. I must, of course, just say that in regards to, and this is nothing in this on this platform is ever personal, it's always political. And so absolutely no offense is meant by this, but I do take issue with Mr. Jabir's comment that there is a balance to be found in terms of South Africa's approach to the implementation of international law, and that our approach as a nation must be informed by our regional interests. The United Nations Charter is very clear in defining international law, and there is absolutely no balance that needs to be sought nor found in terms of determining what is and is not a violation of international law, because we have, as a nation, ratified the treaties that inform international law. And in many cases, such as, for example, with the International Criminal Court, we've in fact domesticated. So we've not merely ratified, but we have in fact taken further steps to domesticate international law. And so South Africa has, of course, taken a very clear position in terms of what we consider to be violations of international law at the ICJ. And there is no space in terms of trying to avoid having to condemn violations of international law on the basis of them being grey areas, or on the basis of positioning ourselves as potential mediators to a conflict to avoid having to condemn some of our fraternal allies. In terms of the ICJ, this is very clear. Now, the USSR, after Perestroika, 1989, 1991, the USSR ceased to exist. The 15 Soviet satellite states that form part of the USSR were given sovereign status in international law. And so Russia's annexation of Crimea and its annexation of the Donbass and other regions of a sovereign state in terms of international law is in fact a breach and a violation. And so I would like to disassociate myself from Dirko's comments that there are in fact grey areas that South Africa can ameliorate themselves from having to overtly condemn. There are no grey areas. And as I said in the beginning, that any excuse that is given or narrative messaging that is advanced that NATO expansionism has engendered or provoked Russia's annexation of sovereign territory must be rejected outright, because NATO expansionism only poses a threat to nations that are intent on stealing territory and sovereign land that does not belong to them. And I would urge DIRCO to rethink its remarks in this committee in terms of there being grey areas or balance to be found in terms of the principled position that South Africa takes in respect of international law. I would also like to move on to dealing with the responses that we received in regards to de-dollarization. Now, when we speak about de-dollarization in the context of BRICS, we are certainly not talking about de-dollarization in the global context. We're talking about de-dollarization as a trading commodity within BRICS, so amongst BRICS member states. Now, we understand it is patently clear to anybody with any very, you could say, basic level of understanding of international relations that this de-dollarization narrative within BRICS is indeed informed by a desire to bypass sanctions on the part of Russia, and of course to bolster China's trade ambitions in regards to US-China trade wars, and we're going to just see that intensify in the context of the outcome of the US elections. And a commodities exchange would be required. So a commodities exchange would require a benchmark currency valuation, and that would, of course, mean a BRICS currency. Now, we understand that right now this is not practically viable. So my understanding of what actually transpired during the finance track meetings at the Kazan summit is indeed different. And I would like clarity from Mr. Joubert, because Mr. Joubert associates himself with or the Honorable Mohammed Pelo's comments in regards to de-dollarization. But my understanding of feedback that we've received from the finance track meetings at BRICS was that in regards to BRICS fiscal policy, South Africa's finance representatives and finance team, along with Brazil and India, in fact, opposed this position. We also know that given the various fluctuations and valuations of our respective currencies, especially in the context of the BRICS bloc expanding at the pace and rate that it is, that it's simply not practically feasible, nor is it economically viable to benchmark a currency valuation between the respective currencies. I find it quite astonishing, in fact, and fairly you could say comical, that members who actually attend these summits in Russia are given euros by our government because, of course, MasterCard and Visas don't work in Russia because of the sanctions in regards to and the SWIFT sanctions, of course, in regards to their violations of international law. And so within Russia, euros are used. And that's, of course, because the ruble itself has so little value that it's not available in international exchange stocks in many parts of the world, including South Africa. So our people are given euros. So I think that we must disabuse ourselves of any potential ambitions to actually even be discussing the issue of de-dollarizations and commodities exchanges and benchmark currency valuations, because it is simply not practically viable in the current context. And so the question that I really have here, those are comments, but I'd like to understand from Mr. Joubert exactly what he means when he says that he associates himself with Honorable Mohammed Pelo's comments in regards to this. And then that's the first question. The second question is, could Mr. Joubert please provide further clarity in terms of what he means in regards to a balance needing to be found in terms of taking a principled position on upholding and implementing international law? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Powell. Honorable Montuedi. Honorable Montuedi, any follow-up? Advocate Shamima.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I just want to say thank you very much for the attempt to answer as many of the questions as possible. I think that as we go along, we will probably end up having more questions. Of our questions will not be able to be answered, whether be this platform or others, because of the nature of the question. I respect that. But I thank you very much for the information that I have received, and we'll work on that information going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Advocate. Mr. Joubert?
Thank you, Chair, and my sincere appreciation for the feedback received on my attempt to respond to these issues. If I listened correctly, it would seem that the only feedback I must provide is on, or clarification is on the response from Honourable Powell. Let me restate what I said earlier on. Indeed, in terms of international law, there is no adjustment or balance needed. What I refer to is how things shape up in the declarations of BRICS. It's very clear where we stand in terms of our respect for international law, and that is why I referred to the matters when it comes, for example, to the Middle East, of the pronouncements by the ICJ, the world's legal systems, and also the world's multilateral system like the UN resolutions on that area. So due respect for that, that is not negotiable. And I think our posture in the ICJ is a very good example of our respect for the non-rigidity of international law, regardless of the enormous negative impact, the injury to international human law that is taking place at the moment. International human rights law. So that is what I would like to make clear. So yes, of course, when we negotiate the summit declarations, we need to find a way to get as much as possible of our language and our position into the declaration. We do believe that mentioning those matters, and as was cited by Honourable Smith, in the declaration is, even if it is not 100% our own domestic language, mentioning those issues in the declarations still would be better than complete omission thereof, because it is not 100% as per our wish or the wish of any other country. So yes, it is when we deal with BRICS and in other multilateral formations of the Global South, it is difficult sometimes to find the ideal wording when it comes to any of these issues, not only when it comes to international law. I can, for example, mention our disappointment that we have lost language on Western Sahara in BRICS declaration. So this is the reality of working in a block of the Global South like BRICS, where everything moves on full consensus. Secondly, in terms of the payment systems, yes, you are right. My reference to de-dollarization is in the BRICS bloc. I will not refer to anything happening outside of the BRICS bloc, or how countries would, via their exchange rate, be punished for not following a specific foreign policy position or stance, as we have seen in the exchange rate of South Africa against the rand, for the rand against the US dollar, for example. So de-dollarization in the BRICS context, I'm appreciative of the information you have shared from our colleagues in the finance track. As you can imagine, in the summit and in the Sherpa negotiations for the 5 days preceding summit, there is no Sherpa track meeting. There is no in the Sherpa track or in any of those tracks, there is no finance track meeting. So you must be referring to those outcomes from the meetings that took place at ministerial level prior to summit, the BRICS finance ministers meeting. And I respect the positions of our colleagues in NT. Indeed, I have mentioned the fact that nobody would be ready to sacrifice a significant amount of policy, monetary policy authority for that matter. So the idea of discussing a BRICS currency to deal with anything, whether it is resources or soft commodities or anything else, would be a very long-term project. I do respect that. I would like to make it very clear categorically that the discussion in BRICS to de-dollarize is not about evading sanctions. For us in BRICS and for us in South Africa, there are no sanctions on Russia because we do not deal with sanctions that are unilaterally imposed by countries. We deal just like we would deal with Russia. We will not respect any other sanctions than those that are imposed by the UN system as the world's acknowledged multilateral system dealing with these matters. But those are my brief comments, Chair. And I am sure that through your secretariat, we could certainly address any of the other issues that need attention in this meeting. Again, to thank you for this engagement, and we stand ready. On behalf of my principals, top management, and the other colleagues, senior managers on this platform, we would like to appreciate this opportunity to engage you, Honourable Chair, and your honourable members. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Joubert. And thanks very much for the manner in which you have responded to the best of your ability to the matters that have been raised by members of the Portfolio Committee. You really did your best to respond to the matters that have been raised. We understand your constraint, that you are not a politician. Therefore, you can't try and venture into matters of politics. And we must applaud you for that, for not avoiding the temptation to get into matters of politics, which under normal circumstances must be dealt with by the minister and the deputy minister. So, and thanks for coming today to deal with these particular matters. Just before you go, I think as a committee, just be aware that we, from the chair side, I think next week, I'm not sure if we're not meeting next week, but from the chair side, we are going to once and for all settle this matter as to whether South Africa foreign policy has been changed as a result of the GNU. So that matter will become to the executive. I think what we will do, we'll talk to the speaker so that maybe a debate once and for all must be scheduled in Parliament. The minister must come, and other ministers. The debate must happen, and the House must take a resolution on this matter, because if there's a matter where there must be no confusion from South Africa, it's on foreign policy, because we can't at a global level be speaking things which are not succinctly clear on where we are standing. So I think once and for all, we are going to commence a process which will result in a resolution being taken by the House as to whether GNU changes South Africa's posture in as far as international relations matters are concerned or not, so that we will be bound by a resolution of the House once and for all, so that this matter must no longer be a debate. So we can't forever leave it to individuals' interpretations. So it will have to be closed. I'm just saying, as part of reporting to the minister, make him aware that we are aware of this unavoidable confusion which is created because there are two schools of thoughts, and those schools of thoughts must cease to exist. There must be one school of thought. There's a school of thought that says there's a new posture. There's a school of thought that says the status quo remains in as far as foreign policy posture is concerned by South Africa. So we will, as soon as we have discussed the matter with the Speaker as to whether it can be tabled in Parliament, we will come back to the Executive so that you prepare yourself for that debate on that, whatever day that it will be scheduled. Otherwise, thank you very much for coming, and we wish you well, all of you and your team. Let's have my hand.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much also for the early warning on those matters.
Thank you. The next item, honorable members, you will recall that
We can leave now.
in our last meeting, we discussed the matter of the two papers, symposia as a tool for engagement as part of public participation and people-centered approach. Each member was sent copies to comment, and a critical decision we took was that we must subject those two documents to the legal section of the Parliament so that they can look at compliance, consistency with rules, constitution, and so on. So basically, we are going to be dealing with two things. One is the responses we got from members of the committee. We will discuss that jointly with the response we got from the legal section of Parliament. And we want to thank Honorable Powell for responding. We also received a response from Honorable Datlas. Unfortunately, Honorable Datlas, upon receiving your response, I only became aware this morning. So our administrator, Lubabalo, it may have escaped his mind that I had requested that whatever response that comes must be sent as CDs to other members of the committee. So the only response which was circulated was that of Honorable Powell, and we apologize that your response was not circulated.
Chairperson, it was circulated. Sorry to say, we have received it. We did receive the MK submission.
No, I mean on time.
Okay.
Yeah, on time. It was circulated a few minutes before this meeting. It was not circulated on time, so we apologize for that.
No problem,
So
Mr.
what
Chair.
we will,
Thank you.
okay. What we will now do, that members have seen the response of Honorable Datlas, and we've seen the response of Honorable Powell. It means the matter that we will discuss is a response from the legal section. After that, we will then say, based on the legal response we have received and the comments that we have received from members of the portfolio committee, what is our posture now on those two documents? Ausdineo, you can now present to us the response from the legal section.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, Chair and honorable members. The response from the legal section is as follows. They sent a letter to Honorable Supra Mahumapilu and then to the Mr. Golile George, the Secretary to Parliament. And the letter is from Advocate Adhikari, the Chief Parliamentary Legal Advisor in Parliament, dated 28th October 2024, and is a legal opinion on the people-centered approach oversight mechanism papers. Their chairperson, introduction number 1, the Constitutional and Legal Services Office was requested by the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on International Relations and Cooperation to consider 2 papers that have been prepared by the chairperson to the Portfolio Committee, namely A, People-Centered Approach to Oversight Mechanism on the Implementation of South Africa's Foreign Policy, and B, People-Centered Approach as a Mechanism on Oversight on International Relations and Cooperation Policy, the Global Trends Symposium. Point 2, we have considered the people-centered approach to oversight mechanism on the implementation of South Africa's foreign policy and the people-centered approach as a mechanism on oversight on international relations and cooperation policy, the global trends, hereafter called the papers. And we are of the view that they appear to be legally sound. We have electronically made certain suggestions and amendments in order to enhance the papers for the purposes of clarity and to reinforce the provisions of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, 1996, the Rules of Parliament, the Oversight and Accountability Model, 2008, and applicable legislation. Point 3, we do, however, wish to highlight the following principles that will be applicable. A, the term of the papers and the work or activities envisaged by the papers are linked to the term of the Portfolio Committee in the 7th Parliament, as the current Portfolio Committee cannot bind future committees. As such, the envisaged policy perspective set out in the papers will automatically dissolve upon the dissolution of the 7th Parliament. This must be borne in mind when planning any activities. B, the papers do not commit the Portfolio Committee to any financial expenditure. In the event that costs may be incurred, for example, in respect of hosting meetings, workshops, and the publication of symposia sessions, for example, such will be subject to compliance with the financial precepts of Parliament and subject to any budget constraints. The chairperson is kindly reminded that in terms of the financial management of Parliament and Provincial Legislations Act 2009, members of Parliament are barred from participating in supply chain management processes, and as such, the requisite approval of the Secretary to Parliament or his delegated authority must be sought in respect of any expenditure emanating from the papers. C, the work or activities to be performed by the Portfolio Committee as envisaged by the papers must be managed and implemented in a manner which preserves the constitutional and legislative independence of the political parties represented. Number 4, we also advise that House Chair, Honorable Frolick, and Speaker should be consulted. Whilst the Speaker does not involve herself in the operations of committees, it is important that she be made aware and given the opportunity to raise any concerns she may have from the perspective of Parliament. 5, should you require any further information, please do not hesitate to contact our Ms. Adelaide Arnold. Yours sincerely, Z. Adhikari, Chief Parliamentary Legal Advisor. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Ausdineo. What we are called upon to do, honorable members, basically, if we agree, is to bring to the attention of both the Chair of Chairs, Honorable Frolik, and the Speaker regarding this matter. If we agree that we need to do that, we will then attach the comments that came from the two honorable members of the committee, Honorable Douglas and Honorable Powell. And then we can, after getting feedback from both the Honorable Frolik and the Speaker, do finalization of our way forward as a committee. That's a proposal. We can hear what members are saying. I can see this hand is written user.
That's me, Mr. Chair. I think.
Oh, okay, Honorable Douglas.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I'd like to propose that we go with your proposal and that we send it through to the Chair of Chairs and the Speaker's office, and that they consider it and get back to us. I'm happy because there's obviously many divergent views in the two proposals, so we'll put it before the House. But obviously for us, I'm glad that the legal feedback that we have gotten has given us the go-ahead to look at this mechanism, to be able to take what we do at a geopolitical level internationally right down to grassroots level. And again, it speaks to the issue of how does geopolitical international relations, bilaterals, etc., really get explained to our people so that they have knowledge of it, and then also the opportunities that created thereof, how does that then also work for them? So, and then it also gives accountability for what we are doing. The people then on a grassroots level can keep our politicians, our government, and DIRCO accountable so that we have equal access across all the nations of the world. You know, east, west, north, south. We have a relationship with countries from Europe to America, to China, to the BRICS environment, and all these relationships. Our people need to understand who we are, what we're representing them as, you know, and they need to have a voice in it. We were, as I said, we were in China. There was a program which we went to that one day where they showed how the people actually engage legislation at the grassroots level, straight off the street. People can engage legislation and even foreign policy. So I think this is a good move forward, and I want to support you, Mr. Chair, in bringing this. And thank you. Let's get it moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Douglas. Honorable Powell.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think that you've taken a very studious and a very fair approach to this, and I would like to commend you for that approach and thank you for that approach. I just would like to make one request. I support your proposal that the submissions from the DA and the MKP be forwarded to the respective parliamentary officers or administrative officers. But I would like to ask that the request for the legal opinion and the legal opinion or the letter that the advisor referred to or read out in this committee be circulated to members as well. Given that the submissions have been circulated, we would like a copy and receipt of the legal opinion as well. And so we absolutely, well, certainly from the DA, we support your proposal and we thank you for the manner in which you have handled this fairly.
Thanks, Honorable Powell. Honorable Kumbaca.
Thank you very much, Chair. Mine is just to support the proposal and the way forward just being proposed. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Honorable Kumbaca. The advocate himself, Honorable Sali.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and to the members. I definitely support the approach that is being taken and the way that it was done. I think from our side as Al Jamaa, we've made it very clear we're very much about public participation and inclusion. So we will definitely continue to support and we welcome the matter being taken forward in this particular way. Thank you for your work, Honorable Chair, and for your dedication.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sali. I think those are the only hands that we have. Next item, do we have announcements? Thank you, honorable members. What we will do, okay, two things, sorry. What we'll do is we will take these things as they are. The two papers, the comment from Honorable Powell, Honorable Douglas, attach everything, give to the Speaker and the Chair of Chairs and await their response. In addition, as Honorable Powell says, please, Ausdinel, that which you were reading must be today be circulated to all members. There's no problem.
It will be, Chairperson. Thank
Lubabalo, any announcements? Thanks, Ausdinel. Okay, it looks like we don't have any announcements from Lubabalo. Honorable members, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for the robustness which characterized our meeting as usual today here. And I think it will continue to enhance our understanding of these geopolitical matters. We'll continue to strengthen our capacity to hold the executive accountable. I think the department is aware now that we are not pulling punches in as far as holding them accountable on any matter is concerned. Very soon, I think they must come and report also on FOCAC, which was held the day before this one. There is an outstanding matter which the department, I don't know what's their problem, on the impact assessment report of the Renaissance Fund. I can assure the committee that we are going to follow up on that matter, why the department is unable to produce that report. We will table it in the committee so that the committee can make a final determination on whatever response we'll get from the department going forward. So that we will do. I wish you well this afternoon for the sitting that is taking place, and I also wish you well for the weekend, which is about to start. Those who are involved in the by-elections today, throughout the country, we wish you well, and we hope we can do like Mauritius and Botswana, where an outcome of a by-election anywhere in the country will be welcomed, irrespective of who is elected in those particular by-elections. This brings us to the end of our meeting today, honorable members. Be blessed. Enjoy your afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all the members. Thank you.
Thanks, Chairperson. Thanks, colleagues.
Thank you,
Thank you
Chair.
all. Thank you, Chair. Bye, guys.